World of Tanks, ISU 122-2. This vehicle is a Tier 8 premium Russian tank destroyer. This is an overpowered vehicle. It's an excellent vehicle. Whatever they are selling it for, if you got the money and you really want a great tank destroyer, you should strongly consider this. It has high penetration, has excellent armor, it's got decent damage, and it's a two-shot auto loader or auto reloader. I'm not sure. It's a premium vehicle. That means you're going to get more combat and crew experience. You're going to get more credits per battle, and you can transfer your Russian crew in and out of this vehicle. Because it's in the Russian tech tree, and there's a lot of Russian tank destroyers in the game, you're probably going to do well training your crew. These are the modules. This gun, Tier 8 penetration, 258. That is higher than almost every other Tier 8 tank in the game. It's a Tier 9 gun, but the penetration 258 with the regular rounds is extremely high. Maybe the STRV is going to be one of the few, and possibly the Scorpion. I didn't compare it because it's not a heavily armored vehicle. The gold rounds is 300, which means that you can penetrate virtually every vehicle in the game, including Tier 10 tanks, especially if you go for the lower hull, the lower front plate. There's only a few vehicles that have higher than 300 300 armor, such as turret armor. That means you can penetrate the Mouse, you can penetrate the Type 5 Heavy, you can penetrate the Mutant, M4E51 it might be called. Almost everything you can penetrate with this vehicle. Tier 8. It means you're going to get more experience when you're in a higher tier battle when you penetrate those higher tier vehicles. The HE rounds is 68, which is above the average, but still it's not that great. Gun loading, it says 10/10. I'm guessing it means 10 seconds. Not sure what that means. We'll look at that later. Time between a shot and switching to the other gun, 7 seconds. Salvo preparation, 2 seconds. Dispersion, 0.37, which is not so great. Aiming time is 2, which is good. Crew of 5, which means you got commander, gunner, driver, and 2 loaders. The commander is a radio operator, which is obviously the best place for it to be because you're going to have a lot of vehicles with a commander. It's a radio operator. You got 2 loaders, which means that you can put some perks on one loader, some perks on the other loader. And you're going to use your regular crew members, and on the top ones, the commander, gunner, driver, you're going to use the 0 skill BIA crew members. 390 damage is kind of average for a tank destroyer Tier 8. And it kind of competes with some of the higher tier vehicles. The average penetration of 258, you can penetrate everything in Tier 8. You can penetrate the T-34. You're going to have difficulty with some vehicle turrets, meaning that it's going to be 50% chance. With the gold rounds, you're going to penetrate just about everything. Gun loading, it says 9.59. That's okay. Reload, 19 seconds, because apparently you can load 2 shots, which is 7 seconds between firing as far as I know. No, 2 shots between firing, but maybe 7 to reload. I don't know. You can do a salvo. You can fire both shots at the same time. -5 gun depression. Nothing special. Aiming time, 1.92. That's really good. That's above average aim time. They put you in the higher quarter or the higher third of vehicles. Dispersion, 0.35. That's actually pretty good. Average EPM is 2,400. Hit points, 1,300. nothing special. Hull armor is 190, which is really good. 190 is probably what the mutant does. It's going to make you better than just about every tier 8 vehicle. You might have some protection against tier 9 vehicles, not against tier 10. Tier 10 vehicles are going to be able to penetrate you. 65 on the side, 40 in the rear. So everyone's going to penetrate you on the side and the rear, including the lower tier, the 6 and 7 vehicles. Tier 6 and 7 vehicles will be able to penetrate on the side. This is the ISU 122-2. Engine power 750, nothing special about that. Top speed of 40, that's kind of average for vehicles in its class. The concealment is 13, nothing special. View range is 370, nothing special. The signal range is 720, which really only matters in frontline. This is a vehicle that's got an engine in the front, which means you're going to be set on fire more often. You do have decent armor. You're probably going to want your driver to have the perk about engine maintenance to reduce the number of fires you have, and you're going to put the firefighting skills on your loaders so that you don't have to worry about putting it on the other crew members. And you might want to carry an automatic fire extinguisher with this vehicle because you're probably going to damage the engine more often than the crew. I'm going to compare it to some of the other vehicles in the game. I don't include vehicles that you probably can't buy because they're rare. Try not to include them. And I don't include the lightly armored tank destroyers. So in terms of damage, you see it's got 390, 490, 150, 390, 400, 500, 320, 400, 400, 330, 400. And we got a couple that are 700 or greater. 390 damage is kind of average. Tank destroyers do higher penetration than other vehicles. We got 286. The ISU 152K is a great vehicle. 286. The 258 is higher than pretty much everybody. In fact, it's the second highest tank destroyer penetration for tier 8, so that's really good. Gold rounds 300. I'm not going to compare all the gold rounds, but 300 penetration is really good. A lot of these might do 240 and then the gold rounds 280, not that much of a difference. So in terms of penetration, you're really doing well. Gun loading is 9 seconds. You can see a lot of these are 7, 9. 9 is kind of average. This one is 3.4, but it's a low damage gun. So 9-second gun loading is pretty good. You're probably going to want to put vents on this tank, especially if you got a highly skilled crew. And then anything to do fire control systems, what do they call it? Experimental equipment or something like that. And in terms of aiming, I think you're going to be fine. You'll have to decide. I would put the one that makes the circle smaller, because you're going to really use that, especially when you're far away. And I would definitely consider a gun laying drive. Gun rammer is going to be good. Gun depression -5. Nothing special about that. In fact, it looks like it is the worst of all the tank destroyers. Aim time 192, that's really good. So 163 is really good. 189 is really good. 153 on the TS5, that's amazing. A lot of them are 2.2, 2.4. So 192 above average. Dispersion of 0.35 is really good. I see a 3.7, 2.7, 3.1, 3.63, 3.5, 3.3, 3.5, 3.5, couple of 4s, 3.5, 3.4, 3.6, 3.5. 3.5 is average, but it's a good average because it makes you better than other vehicles in the game of other classes. The DPM 2,400. Not that great. Little bit under the average. Hit points 1,300. It looks like 1,300 is common for most of the vehicles. Hull armor of 190 is really good. You see we got a 195, 250, 150, 260, 254. So the 190 is not at the top. A lot of these vehicles have more. There's a lot with 229 and a lot of 250s, 220s. However, 190 is still pretty good. So for a tank destroyer, it's kind of average. But in terms of a tank in general, it's really good. Suspension repair time is 1203, which looks like it's kind of average, but it's more on the low side. Many of the vehicles do it in 10, which could be because I own them and I have them configured to improve the time. Engine power 750 looks kind of average. The top speed is 40. 40 is average, but pretty good for this class of vehicle. It's going to make it better than a lot of the other tank destroyers. Not going to be able to compete with medium tanks and light tanks, of course. Traverse speed, 31. That's kind of average, but it's actually pretty good. The camo is not good. You really want a higher camo rating, especially when you fire. The view range is 370, which is nothing special. It's more near the bottom. Is it an overpowered tank? Yes, this is an overpowered vehicle. I recommend this vehicle. I will buy when I've got 11 million credits. So the other vehicles, I believe, we're selling for 17 million. It's going to be expensive. I'm not going to be able to afford to buy it. They might have a second chance later on. But it is a good vehicle, along with the ISU 152 and the Scorpion G. I highly recommend them. Jagdtiger 8.8. I don't recommend it. Maybe it was good at one time. It's one of my most played vehicles, but I don't recommend it. The AMX, I really would not recommend. Actually, this is a Tech Tree vehicle. The Kari is okay. T28 prototype. The ISU 130, I would not take now that we got this other vehicle out. TS5 is good. So you should strongly consider a TS5. Got a great gun on it. The Vipera is good. It's got good armor. The Turtle, I play it. The Turtle's okay. Nothing special. Don't know what that is. Or maybe that's called Jagdtiger prototype. The XM66F, I don't really know what that vehicle is. It looks okay. And the WZ120, I haven't played yet. It's obviously in the Chinese tech tree. Doesn't look anything special. My recommendation, don't worry about the AT-15 or the WZ. This is a tech tree vehicle, so don't worry about it. The ISU 130, I believe we can remove from comparison. This one's tech tree. Turtle one, I'd say skip it. Don't worry about the T28. This is a tech tree vehicle, so I'll pull it out, and it's got low penetration. This is one of the worst penetrations in the game, but that's, of course, with stock gun. These are the vehicles you want to choose from. I'm going to say that, you know, skip the Jagd Tiger. This is tech tree vehicle. I don't know a lot of these vehicles, but the Scorpion G, if you don't have it, this is a really great vehicle to play. It's got some specs that the basic difference between the Scorpion and the ISU is that the Scorpion is a light vehicle, it's faster, lower armor, and the ISU is a double shot with a greater armor. If you had to pick between the two, you might want to consider going with the Scorpion G. It's a good vehicle. The ISU 152 is going to be cheaper if you can get it. Also a good vehicle. You don't have the double shot. TS5. If you want to save money, recommend highly the TS5. I play it all the time in Frontline. The Vipera is an overpowered vehicle. Highly recommend. XM66, I don't know. WZ, I don't know. So you got a lot of choices. you really want to strongly consider these other vehicles. I am going to say forget about the WZ. It's not that big of a deal. And this other vehicle here, yeah, the XM is okay. It's not so bad. So this is, let's look at the Kari. Kari is pretty good. The Scorpion doesn't have the armor. The rest of them, I guess they kind of do. Let's take a quick, okay, so the Scorpion and the ISU and the XM don't have the armor. And knock them out. So these are your final choices. I don't know much about the Kari, but I will tell you that the ISU is the autoloader, which makes it great, but these other vehicles are really good also. The TS5 has great armor. The Vipera has great armor. You got lower penetration with the Vipera. The ISU, like I said, in terms of doing damage against the higher tier vehicles, it's going to be a really good choice. So I would say choose between these 4 vehicles if you decide you want to buy one of these vehicles. Maybe instead of spending a lot of money at the ISU, buy the other 3. They're great vehicles to play unless you're dedicated to the Russian tech tree. You're probably going to have a lot of vehicles to play, so you might not play it as often as you want to, unless you really want to play that vehicle this year. I am the owner of cheapbooks.com. It's a website for buying and selling books and textbooks. You don't have to pay anything to use the site. There's 650 million book listings, and I have an online study website that I'm working on, which is called cheapbooks.news. And I also recommend a piece of software called Honeygain. You resell your bandwidth as a VPN on your computer or cell phone. You can make some money. Some people are making $50 a month or $100 a month. If you're in North America or Europe, I'm in Asia, so unfortunately I'm not making any money. Look for the link in the comments or in the description. Okay, that's my review of the ISU 122-2, World of Tanks ISU 122-2. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.